Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, April 25th, 2012, and it is 8:40 a.m. in the U.S. Eastern Time Zone. And my name is Inta Mitterbach, and this is a Northern Border broadcast production of which is a fictitious entity. And this is going to be a recording which is being made in Lakewood, Ohio, of the United States. It's an amateur audio broadcast, and today I was going to share with you a paper that I did at Cuyahoga Community College when I was working on my Associate of Science degree. It was in a psychology class, and the paper I was thinking about NASA and space and astronauts and things like that, and I did a paper on Astronaut Psychology, and I think this might actually be an article review or something, but I thought I'd go over that and share that with you. The picture in the background is at Huntington Beach. I went there last night. It's the sun setting over the lake at the as viewed from the Huntington Beach area, and I was out on one of the stone piers, and to take this picture. And the photo in the corner, top left corner, is a photo of the kind of sandy gravel on the beach, of which there's kind of rocky. Different beaches have different types of some are just sandy. That was kind of little pebbles and little shells. So anyway, what else can I say? It was about 7 o'clock last night when I took the photo from Huntington Beach, and kind of windy. A couple seagulls on the beach and in the air. Some people out on the beach and around the piers and going out onto the piers. And I did check the water temperature because I'm still thinking about, whether or not I'm going to swim out to that 5-mile crib and back out on Lake Erie, and whether or not I can do that. I smoked for 30 years and I quit. I started smoking when I was a teenager. And yeah, you can probably tell. But anyway, I quit smoking, I think, in 2007 or 2008, so it's been 4 or 5 years since I quit smoking. I've tried running a couple times, and I don't know. I'm not feeling any pain. I don't know if my friends are putting painkillers in my coffee or what, but I seem to have survived it pretty well. I went into the hospital at one point having like an emphysema attack, and I decided, well, there was a lot I wanted to do with my life, and that I didn't want to smoke anymore, so as to shorten the length of my lifespan, and so as not to further shorten the length of my lifespan. But so anyway, I've tried running a little bit. Comet the dog, who's not making any noise right now, Comet, my dog, she's a very small dog, and I don't know if she's going to keep up. She kind of gets worn out on a walk, a 1-mile walk. I think she's pretty much done, but she's not even a year old, so I don't know if her endurance is going to get any better. But she's not really a runner and a long distance walker. But I was trying to figure out if I could swim out to the 5-mile crib and back. And what do you do when you get out there? Is there a place like that you can hang on and stop? And what's the water temperature? When are you going to try that? And then you've got the height of the waves. And I was thinking about I had a bottle of Chanel number 5 or something perfume, and I was thinking about the English Channel. I think there was a woman that swam the English Channel, so every time I look at my bottle of Chanel number 5, I think of the woman that did that, and the temperature of the water and the water conditions and what she had to do to accomplish that, and whether or not you can do something like that on Lake Erie, and what the distance is, and So, and then I had my thoughts about, oh yes, I can do that. I'm going to push it, and I'm going to work out, and I'm going to try to do that. And then there was the decathlon. Does everyone know what a decathlon? Do I know what a decathlon is? And so I was trying to recall that and what activities. And then you've got the complications of mental illness and psychiatric care. And I don't know in terms of some of the. I'm not real familiar. I know I've seen, I think, on the Olympics sometimes broadcasted on television in the past, a long time ago. They had various events in the, I don't know if it was triathlon or what it was, but I think there was maybe some marksmanship skills that you had to demonstrate. So I was trying to figure out whether or not someone who has been now deemed to be mentally ill, which is not even in my, well, whether or not it's true or not true. Someone who's mentally ill, can they even compete in the decathlon? Because they do not. Are you allowed to demonstrate your marksmanship? Are you allowed to use a weapon? Are you allowed to be licensed for a, and in terms of so anyway, off on another tangent. Think about that and mental illness and what the restrictions are now that you've dictated someone as being mentally ill, and whether or not they'll be able to compete in the Olympics or whether or not they can compete in a decathlon. And I guess I was feeling as though, well, I guess I can compete in the decathlon. And what's that? I can drink as many cups of decaf coffee as I possibly want. But then the other thing is, you're on psychiatric medications. Is that, there are really people that are trying to, compete in physical activities and different things. So are you disqualified because you're on antipsychotic medications or any other types of psychiatric medications? Is that a qualification or a disqualification of participation in what? What are you going to be disqualified for if you are considered mentally ill? What are you going to be disqualified from if you're taking medications? Can someone who is can a diabetic compete in the any type of medical condition? Are there medical conditions that you're just prohibited or banned from participation in competing events because of those, and I don't know, because I've never really had health problems, and so it was a sensitivity issue for me because I wound up in psychiatric care as the result of my experiences, of which I had divorce and child custody and let's try to be a top secret. Let's try to hold a top secret clearance, and let's try to be our boss. My boss was a retired lieutenant colonel, and I had a lot of admiration for him, and he taught me a lot as his secretary. And so I and thinking, about security clearances and things, can you do that? You're now mentally ill. Are you going to be able to work at NASA? Do you have to have security clearance to work at NASA? Can you do that? There's some psychology for you, and there's some astronaut psychology. Anyway, the paper. The paper is entitled Astronaut Psychology, and it was for a Psychology 101 class. Basically, it's at Tri-C, the Cuyahoga Community College. It's considered Psychology 1010. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I don't think it's any secret. My professor was Larry Sprouse, and I had a difficult time in that class. I did get an A in that class, and I'm not sure I feel as though I deserved it. It was in the summer of 2004. I think I did some interesting papers for that class, and I learned a lot. what was I going to say about that? I'm a little distracted because it sounds like the alarm is going off, and I don't know if there's like a humming from my aquarium or my computer or what, but it sounds like the emergency alarm is going off. So what was I going to say about this? Psychology 10 to... Oh, the tough thing about this class, I had a couple challenges in this class. Here's some psychology challenges for you. Try sitting in class and paying attention when the person next to you is pushing all of their things into what would be your desk space area. You typically think of, the space you have in front of you when you're in school, your desk area. You consider that to be that's kind of your space. You're given a place to sit, and then you go to college and university and stuff. You sit down. You don't necessarily have your little assigned desks like you did in elementary school, but you sit down, and So, I'm sorry, I really didn't expect for the person next to me to move her things into my space, and that was a little difficult. And I have to say, in terms of psychology, I think I had a tweak of anger, and I think it was somewhat unexpected. The other thing, I was in Beck when I came back to Cleveland, and I'm like having a major crisis, divorce, custody, kids, just my kids were in Alabama, I was in Ohio, and major losses all simultaneously, and so I'm an absolute wreck. And I went to a play production at the Beck Center in Lakewood, Ohio, with my mom, and I'm sorry to say, I don't recall the name of the play that was performed, but we're sitting in the audience, and there's a young woman sitting next to me. She takes her purse and puts it on my lap. And what is that? I mean, she was a young woman. She was probably, I don't know, maybe around 20 years old, and I was in my early 30s. And, we're in a nice formal theater production performance, and that's the Beck Center in Lakewood. That's where Tom Hanks, I think everyone knows who Tom Hanks is, the famous I saw Tom Hanks perform Shakespeare something at Beck Center. But so there's a young woman, she puts her purse on my lap. What is that? There's some psychology for you. Deal with that. She's taken her purse and she just sits it on my lap so that she can sit there during the performance. I guess that chair that I was in was there for her purse, not for me. So there was that, and and then when I was taking my tests in the psychology class, Mr. Sprouse's, I think he had a master's degree. I don't think he had a PhD. I think he was actually on the psychology review team for disability or something like that, and psychiatric review board or something for the disability, Social Security disability, something like that. I don't know if he did that simultaneously or what the situation was. But so I'm in my class taking a test, and the fluorescent light bulb above my head is strobing. It's flashing. And it's like, what kind of torture is this? I've got to be able to sit here taking a test while there is a flashing light on top of me. And so that was kind of a challenge. And that's, that was a distraction that I didn't anticipate having to deal with, especially not taking a test. And then, of course, as far as distractions during tests, there's this is all psychology. Be prepared. You're taking a test in a college course, and this was at the University of Akron, and I was working on a geography degree at that point, and I was in an environmental science class taking a test, and no talking. You're not even supposed to talk during the class with other students and stuff, during lectures and things. But during a test, you don't talk. I mean, I've had tests where they don't care what the emergency is. You do not leave your seat. You don't make a sound. You just, that's it. You sit down. You're there for 4 hours. You're not leaving. You're not going anywhere. And for some of us young women who have had those high school tests, that can be well, that can be a difficult thing to deal with, and so I've been there. And so anyway, in my environmental science class, during the test, the young man behind me needs to ask me a question. And I'm not sure, but I think it might have been even a foreign exchange student. And I turned around and bit his head off loud enough so that the professor could hear, so that I guess if there was any doubt whether or not there was a conversation going on during the test or whether or not I was being disturbed, I guess I made a big enough disruption so that everyone would know that there was a disturbance and not a conversation. And I apologize for that, but, what do you do with that? So I don't know. I guess maybe you could stand up, go to the professor, and bring that to the professor's attention, and the other students taking the test. They I think everyone said, "Oh my God," or I wound up being the bad guy because someone wanted to talk to me. Someone behind me during my test wanted to say something, and I don't know what it was, and I don't, you just. It was during a test, So anyway, here's the astronaut psychology paper that I did, and let's see. It looks like there's some quotations in here, probably quite a few, because I think this was I think it may have been an article that I reviewed, but. Here it goes. There are many factors in psychology to consider when sending astronauts into space. Astronauts are vulnerable to depression and the effects of isolation. Trips to Mars will entail 18 months of round-trip travel and 12 months on the planet. And that's not even, and I guess I'll throw my comments in. Trips to Mars have potentially the potential to not return, and that's kind of a difficult, psychological, they, so, prepare for that. Prepare for you might not come back. Are you ready to make that commitment? And the whole trips to Mars thing is, I'm still trying to figure out if you have to build the Kennedy Space Center out on Mars to return I did look up, and I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but I think the gravity on Mars is approximately, I don't know, maybe I think it's about 40% of that on Earth. And so it's it's not going to take as much to thrust upward from the planet's surface. But then, of course, there's the atmosphere conditions. And then I started thinking about, okay, what kind of windows are you dealing with? Are you, what are the weather conditions on Mars? Is that a factor? Do the weather? I think weather conditions on Earth are critical with regard to the departure of the shuttle and the capsules that have gone up into space, supposedly. I've never seen one, but that's the story. So I've never seen a launch or a flight or anything, but I've always believed that was true. I start thinking about it, and I get a little skeptical because it's just like, well, it just seems so critical. But so anyway, in terms of the atmosphere on Mars and the weather conditions on Mars or any other planet, what's the weather? And and then in terms of geography, you've got terrain issues, and what's the terrain like on Mars, and then you've got, here comes the geography. Is Mars all mapped out, and do we know the terrain and everything, and all of the names of all the places on Mars, and so is when the Mars when the mission to Mars goes there with the astronauts, and I think this, whatever this source was, says it's going to take 18 months of round trip travel. And then where's the fuel coming from for the return flight, and how much does that weigh? And so that's got to be transported there and back and calculated in terms of weight and use of fuel and everything like that. And it just goes on. I guess, I don't know if anyone else is interested in this stuff, and maybe everyone that is interested in this stuff has already thought about all of these things, but it's kind of, it just kind of goes off in a lot of directions. So there's that. Anyway, on with the paper. Astronauts manage stress better than most of us. I would say so. Oh, and one thing, and I think I've mentioned this previously, astronauts, most of them are military, former military, and I think most of them are former military officers, and I wasn't aware of that. So, when we're all little kids dreaming about being astronauts, and you might dream about going into the military first and getting seriously trained and experienced before, I don't know, maybe there's an astronaut training program that starts at birth that I don't know about, but on with the paper. The everyday hazards of space exploration include radiation storms, space debris, the possibility of crashing, or just a new list of things to do from ground control. And that came from, that was a quotation with some editing from How Astronauts 2002. And I don't know if that's an abbreviation of the title. I'll go through the sources at the end of this. One of the programs that has been developed in the smart medical system for psychosocial support. Okay, well, I don't know what happened there. This program combines video, audio, text, and graphics to create a lifelike environment. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to the paper there. The astronauts are prompted in various situations to determine what solution should be chosen in various circumstances. The hope is to prevent anxiety, I guess, in terms of psychology. This is pathetic, sorry. The concerns include mental stability, feuds, suicide, and murder. I hadn't thought about that. Are the astronauts going to be up there and that wasn't a quotation. I don't know if those ideas were. I have a source here. Well, the previous paragraph was from Gallagher of 2002, and now this is Rothfeder of 2003. And I don't know. I hadn't thought that astronauts had would be susceptible. Susceptible, is that the word? To potential murder. Systems are being developed to, or I guess, what are they going to do? Go up there and kill each other? I don't know. Systems are being developed to detect changes in voice and facial expressions that would indicate a cause for concern, to alert medical staff for intervention. And I think that what that is they're going to use monitoring systems so that they can detect all types of reactions in anticipation of problems that they might need to deal with. And I kind of feel like I've been under a 24-hour monitoring and detection. And it's, if you actually, psychologically, if you ever felt like you were, I don't know, psychologically, if you seriously tried to consider being subjected to 24-hour monitoring your entire life, of which, in terms of medical situations, there are some people who spend their lives, sometimes unfortunately much shorter, but spend their lives in medical environments who subjected to round-the-clock monitoring, and so I don't know. Maybe some of it is more or less invasive. Maybe they're more or less psychologically accustomed to having that invasiveness upon them, and it's in terms of sensitivity issues. Would you want to be monitored in any way? Who wants to be monitored 24 hours a day? I don't know. Who does anyone like any type of monitoring? But astronauts, I don't know what the extent is of their monitoring. I don't know if their life is under total monitor. I have no idea, but I don't even like being, I'm so sensitive to monitoring. I didn't even like my boss looking over my shoulder to see what I was doing, let alone, things like surveillance cameras. Well, and then I recall seeing, for example, surveillance cameras on television, on a news show on television, where they had hooked up hidden cameras to find a I think a city worker who had been doing something that I don't remember what it was, but they were trying to catch I think a municipal worker in one of the municipal offices. I don't know if it was the mayor's office or what it was, but they were trying to catch the municipal worker doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing, and so they had hooked up hidden surveillance cameras, and it's like, oh my God, can you imagine? They're watching you with hidden surveillance cameras, and you didn't know they were there. You did not know they were there. What did you do? I mean, how embarrassed are you when you find out that you had hidden surveillance cameras? I mean, I guess what they wanted was normal behavior, maybe. Well, normal behavior. Going to the bathroom is pretty normal. Do you want to be watched going to the bathroom? And again, medical situations, a lot of people are subjected to that. And then let me tangent that again. I've been in the I had the psychiatric tour of duty, and I even took a tour of the jail in Rocky River because I felt so strongly about a particular issue. I felt that I was correct and the officer was wrong with regard to a judgment made for a traffic ticket, and I didn't have the money to pay for it, and I was trying to fight it in court, and that's another story, and I think you've all heard it already, but I actually sat in jail. Well, you actually, they've got cameras watching you in the jail cell. You have a bed, and it's in the cell I was in. There was like a bunk bed, and they brought me a little container of food, like a carry-out styrofoam container of food, and a styrofoam cup with some milk in it. And here's your sink, and a toilet. And here's the cameras, and enjoy your stay. And I didn't. There's like a board that you can pull across the I guess across the for some privacy, so they can still see your face and everything, but I guess they can't see your what would be considered more private areas of you using the bathroom facility, and I don't think they have like women's jail and men's jail. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they have like the women's area and the men's area. I don't know. I was in there all by myself, having that experience, and and then you've got the astronauts. I think one of the things that everyone used to joke about is when we were showing the movies. I worked as an administrative assistant in the Visitors Center at NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland on Brook Park Road, and showing the movies, and there was one of the jokes that the persons used to mention. I think it was in actually the movie, that the astronauts, and it was a NASA movie, that the astronauts, that going to the bathroom. That's going to the bathroom up on the space shuttle and space station and stuff, And there's what's the privacy issue there? Can you handle that and whatever problems? So I guess nobody has a problem with any of this stuff, but I'm like, I guess I'm too modest for all of that. And then of course there's the psychiatric units at the hospital, and at Lakewood Hospital, which was part of the Cleveland Clinic. There were the rooms did not have private bathroom facilities, and so there were two places that were available to use the bathroom facilities, and one was like a single unit bathroom facility, and then there was I think a double or triple unit bathroom facility for women, and they kept the triple unit had a little more privacy, and that was for women only, and they kept that one locked most of the time. You weren't allowed to use that, and basically the bathroom facilities that were available on the unit allowed there were no locks on the doors, and so the patients would wander into the bathroom while you were using the bathroom, and didn't necessarily knock before entering, and so there you go again. So that's nice. That's nice. Everyone gets to see Mrs. Mitterbach use the bathroom. Everyone at the jail got to see Mrs. Mitterbach use the bathroom, and everyone in the hospital got to see Mrs. Mitterbach use the bathroom. And there's women's issues too, and I guess everyone can see Mrs. Mitterbach deal with her women's issues, and so there's that, and that was difficult and painful, and maybe I should deal with all of these injustices, and except they go on and on and on, and I'm so buried in injustices that where are you going to start? I think I've been pretty much assaulted in every way. So anyway, on with the paper. I guess this is all just part of school, huh? Separation from social outlets and loss of privacy are also of concern. Sleep can be affected from anxiety. A system is under development that will allow astronauts to interact with an electronic psychiatrist, enabling communication and prescribing of medication if needed. And that's Malik 2002. And I go on. And I apologize. I'm not necessarily properly citing all the quotations, because a lot of this is quoted, but I mean it's cited in the paper, but I'm for this audio not citing it specifically. Space crews must live and work together in close quarters 24 hours a day, sometimes for months on end. There is a project called the Crew Member and Crew Ground Interactions during International Space Station missions that raises questions for the crew with regard to their moods, feelings, and daily lives in orbit. And that's from How Astronauts of 2002. Many of the astronauts are able to suppress their emotions when they need to, but suppression for months on end can wear them down. When astronauts are under a lot of stress, they find it difficult to relax. And as a result, astronauts socialize with each other less and tension mounts. Often mission control is blamed for the mounting stress. Excuse me. This is called displacement, and it is a very common way for people to deal with stress. Unfortunately, it is a short-term fix, and the problem isn't effectively dealt with. Displacement is toxic because it lets the real problem fester, and that's from How Astronauts 2002. The trip to Mars is going to be even more demanding than a trip to the International Space Station, also known as the ISS. The crew will be away for 3 years. Well, what happened to 18 months? I mean, I think I mentioned 18 months previously. Now it says 3 years. Maybe that's someone else's opinion. I don't know. Isolation complications will be elevated. The crew will have to be able to handle their problems on their own. The more training that they get, the better off they will be. In an article of the American Psychological Association, Al Holland, Ph.D., contends that we tend to focus too much on the individual level and too little on the organizational level. He thinks that erroneous and unclear operations issued by ground control can be frustrating to crew members, which can increase crew tension. And that's not a complete quote, I don't think, but parts of which are, and that's from Freiberg, 1998. Holland expresses his concerns that the astronaut's psychological well-being be preserved. And what was I just thinking of here in terms of handling problems? I guess, you've got to be able to do it all. Potentially, depending on what the situation. How many astronauts does it take to get from Mars back to Earth? I mean, if something goes wrong and you've got one astronaut left, how many? That's a morbid thought, isn't it? How many astronauts are actually going to be on the Mars mission? Sent to Mars, and how many are going to be needed to return, if there are any, what are the hazards and the risks, and as far as I know, every one of those crew is needed to get it there. So if something happens, I mean, it's pretty bare bones as far as I don't think they have extra people on board to to survive in terms of getting the mission back home. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they have extra people on board, but I didn't think so. And the other thing I'll mention as far as let me throw this one in as far as tangential thoughts that I have had with regard to my divorce. I had my husband's attorney, ex-husband's attorney. He really scared me. He really did scare me. I don't recall exactly what the terminology in the divorce. It was I guess, what is it called? The notice of I guess what happened in my divorce, and not that anyone cares, but I filed for a divorce. I did not expect that my husband was going to counter-file a divorce. And that one's I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know when you filed a suit, basically, that someone could counter-file a suit, and it's like, oh, you're going to divorce me? Well, I'm going to divorce you. So he counter-files a suit against me, and I get this whatever it's called, I don't know, the letter you get when that the person, the individual, gets of the notification of the suit. So it says at one, I don't know if it was in the original letter or if it was in the correspondence, his attorney and he want copies of all recorded anything and everything. I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but it was like, you got to be kidding. You want everything, huh? Everything that has ever been recorded. And I started thinking about surveillance systems in stores and everywhere you go, and what kind of surveillance cameras do we have on top of the planet, and where are all the surveillance? How are you going to? And I've been all over the world, and what kind of surveillance? And if I have to collect all of that, and how much is that going to cost? And how are you going to find all of that and get all of that? And who's going to pay for that? And how long is that going to take? And oh my God, do you know that NASA had a thing online where you could have your name recorded. You could have your and documentation too. Everything. Your entire existence. Everything. And then let's get an extremist's view. Every brain. Your brain is a human recording device. So I think I don't know if they said what the terminology is. Okay, so you've got every brain on the planet. Let's collect every brain on the planet that has any knowledge of Inta Mitterbach. And is that so anyway, NASA had a thing online where they were sending I think like a gold record or something, a gold plate recorded something, and you could have your name sent to NASA to be put on this recorded disc or whatever it was that was going to be flown to Mars. So it was some kind of special thing, everyone put your name on it, we're going to ship it to Mars. So I did that for myself and my 2 daughters, and I shared the link in the project or whatever it was with, I think, friends and stuff. So, okay, so here you go. Now my attorney wants everything. Is that like in the universe, or is that just here on Earth? I don't know if there were any limits or boundaries to that. I think it was like everything everywhere. So in order to comply with the divorce, hold on, we have to send a mission to Mars to retrieve the gold record with my name on it, or whatever, the gold disc with my name on it, because we need all evidence of, into Mitterbach's existence. Everything must be examined, and so anyway, just don't let your head spin off the planet when you start realizing the extent of that. And yeah, it really did scare me. It really, really did. I wasn't thinking in terms of necessarily anything I had done wrong. I was thinking in terms of, oh my God, how much is this going to cost in time and money? I will never win this case. I am never going to get my children. I am never going to be able to get anything. I'm going to have to sign the papers and walk away from everything because, and I had an attorney, and my attorney really didn't represent me very well. And, okay, so I worked 5 jobs to pay attorney's bills, and how many jobs are you going to work to pay for an attorney of which really didn't assist you? So I think I paid him $8,000, and at that point I said, nothing's happened here, and I don't feel as though I've been well represented, and that's the end of that. I'm out of money. I can't go on like this. I didn't have a college education. I was working 5 jobs and trying to pay my bills, plus pay for an attorney and go through a divorce, and then I had the tangential. Then I had the free legal aid in Cleveland, Ohio, telling me call the Bar Association, and the Bar Association telling me to call legal aid, and apparently there is no legal assistance for domestic issues, and I even tried calling the universities and trying to get, I think I called Case Western Reserve University trying to get domestic help, and I made some other phone calls, and I just, and I had some other problems, and hold on, in the middle of all that, you have to take a psychiatric tour and spend the next 16 years getting beat up by the system, and, on and on and on and on. So anyway, on with the paper. Psychologist Joanna Wood, PhD, a senior scientist, did studies with members of Antarctic mission teams and concluded that mission members tend to feel as if they have been abandoned by their home organizations if they don't hear from them regularly and frequently. She also found that people tend to get tired of looking at the same faces and reach levels of annoyance in doing so. She found that depression was not common and that expectations are directly related to how well people on long-term expeditions fare. Sometimes I feel as though, just as a comment, sometimes I feel as though I've been an experiment for NASA and, locked off from the world and examined very closely for the benefit of mankind, of which was not my choice, but, I mean, how closely do you need to examine someone and monitor someone? I don't know if it was kids or adults or a bunch of seriously criminal sharks or doctors or police or who was doing it, but I think someone had hooked up a what's it called, a sensor. Someone had hooked up a sensor to the door to my home, maybe a sensor beam, so that every time I came in and out of my house, a police siren went off, and that's really, I guess at the point where they make you feel like a police siren goes off every time you open it, when they really start making you feel bad about yourself, and they really, play games and pound you down. And I don't know who was responsible for that, but that really hurt tremendously. And with all of these games with sensors and technology and everything, of which I learned about when I was working in Huntsville for a defense contractor, some of it, not all of it, learned a lot about what can be done. But I didn't think of it in terms of criminal use. I thought of it in terms of benefit. How can this be used? How can the sensors and the technology and the satellites be used for maybe people who are trapped in mines below the earth? And can you send signals and use physics and stuff like that to try to communicate? They went down there, maybe they don't have communications devices and things like that. So I was thinking in terms of how these things can be used for good purposes, and I never thought that I might become a victim of all of these things being used in a way that is not good. And hooking up sensors to my side door entry so that sirens go off every time I come in and out of my house. Oh, yeah, go ahead and prove that. Okay, well, everyone lies, and and then, of course, you've got Google Earth. Let's have fun with live Google Earth, or whatever it's called. Maybe we can cyber stalk Mrs. Mitterbach with Google Earth in her car, and when you take all the technology and what can be done, it's and consider that it has a lot of potential to do a lot of harm, unfortunately. And now I know that, and I didn't realize that I would become a victim of that, which I didn't know. It's kind of like, I guess here's the marketing brochure for the okay, maybe it's like, okay, you work at a guns manufacturing company. I don't even like guns, and how the heck did I get this job? But I'm working at a guns manufacturer, and here's a pretty picture of a gun on a brochure. Do you like this? Does this market it? Does this sell it? Do you like this? Is this good? And yeah, everyone loves it. That's great. And I didn't realize they were going to turn around and shoot me with the gun. So anyway, maybe that's what happened to me, in terms of the Department of Defense, I don't know. But anyway, on with the paper. Al Holland stated that you don't want a crew member or a team dependent on psychologists. You want an independent individual. You also don't want to be intrusive into that individual's life or into the crew's activities. You need to strike a balance where you are involved with the crew to an extent that you're helpful, and then you stay out of their way. And that was thoughts from Freiburg, 1998. Some of the signs, I guess that was, some sort of publication, Freiburg, 1998. Some of the signs shown frequently in individuals subjected to long periods of isolation include heightened anxiety, boredom, depression, and excessive anticipation, which may interfere with their responsibilities. One cosmonaut, I don't know if everyone knows what cosmonauts are. I think the cosmonauts are actually the Russian astronauts, the cosmonauts. And actually, I think the cosmonauts actually beat the United States in what was referred to as the space race, according to what I've looked at. And I guess the United States had the first man on the moon, but the cosmonauts, well, I think as far as getting to the moon, I think they actually reached the moon prior to the United States, but I'm not sure about that. But anyway, one cosmonaut had a transcendent experience which led him to make a dangerous, unauthorized spacewalk. One Skylab astronaut erroneously changed the Skylab attitude. Attitude? Is there an attitude? Is there a difference between attitude and altitude? I don't remember. I think there is an attitude, but I don't remember what that is. The attitude control system while suffering from psychological problems. There are many causes for concern. Astronauts have reported loneliness, excessive fear of danger, and homesickness. During long missions, they have shown signs of increased territoriality, withdrawal, and need for privacy, and that's from Jenks, 1994. And then it goes on to say there is definitely a place for psychology at NASA and with regard to astronauts' mental well-being to assure that they maintain a healthy mental state in an adverse environment. State-of-the-art technology is being used to assure mission success and to reduce the negative effects of space exploration on human individuals exploring space. And I guess that was my closing conclusion paragraph, of which it was out of my brain in terms of looking at NASA, where I have worked, and thinking about the space program and astronauts. And I guess when I was going to school, I was kind of applying all of my research papers as to my particular interests, of which NASA was one. And I did consider the possibility of working for NASA, and I guess my my dream job was that I came up with was, wouldn't it be great to be the international marketing representative for NASA, and go around the world talking to people about what benefits NASA can be to them. And so I was thinking about that, but I was also recently thinking, I really don't want my kids to go to grow up and become astronauts. It's kind of like I really don't want my kids to grow up and be soldiers. I just don't want them, in terms of soldiers. I don't want my kids to be a bullet target. And in terms of astronauts, I guess I consider that there's such a great risk, and not only the risk, it's such a commitment. It's a major lifelong commitment to become an astronaut, and in my opinion anyway. I mean, I think to train and think like an astronaut, prepare yourself to become an astronaut, and I think you have to make, it's kind of like, what did you have to sacrifice to become the Olympic gold medalist, Well, you're not going out with all your friends every Friday night shopping and eating popcorn at the movies, probably, You're spending your time training, and I kind of thought of NASA as like the Olympics, You spend your time training, you're preparing for that, you're getting the very best grades you can, and you're trying to be as strong as you can in every way in order to, I don't know, I guess I considered getting to NASA to be like you made it to the Olympics, or, you were working toward, qualifying for the Olympics. And, I guess I did make it there, and I guess I made it there long enough to have a brief experience so that I can have an opinion and share my opinions maybe. But I did receive word from NASA when I tried applying for a job after leaving NASA, and I got fired from NASA. They said they were afraid of me, and I don't know. That's kind of not a nice thought. That NASA's the government and the military, and I didn't know that NASA was the military. I knew NASA was. I thought of NASA as science, and and science as being a good thing. I didn't think of science as being a bad thing, potentially. And so there was another thought I had about that, but my head just flatlined. And anyway, I think my thoughts have just run out here. Let me go over the sources here. Bibliography, it's entitled. Peter Freiberg, Psychology Keeps Astronauts Well Grounded, from the APA Monitor. David Gallagher, Staying Sane in Outer Space in Psychology Today. How Astronauts Get Along in Science at NASA. I guess that was online. Ken Jenks, there was an addendum in Astronaut Psychology. And I found all of these things, most of them online. Tariq Malik, Researchers to Give Astronauts Computer Confidant, and Jeffrey Rothfeder in Crew Psychology, Popular Science, and anyway, that was my little paper on astronaut psychology. I guess and the other thing that I was going to say about my dream job, the international marketing representative for NASA. I kind of was wondering, since I've pretty much decided I don't want my kids to grow up to be astronauts any more than I want them to grow up to be soldiers, because I don't know, I guess I don't like that. But and I did a paper on that back in high school, I think around 1980. I was a freshman, maybe it was 79. I was a freshman, and I was in a senior speech class at St. Augustine Academy in Lakewood, Ohio, and it was an all-girls high school. And somehow, for whatever reason, they put me in a senior class when I was a freshman, and I did a paper on how I thought that more money should be spent on science and research in NASA, and less money should be spent on defense and weapons and war, and and I didn't like all of that stuff. And how the heck, I think they walked me right through the whole thing so I could take a look at it and think about what I had said and written back in ninth grade high school. So anyway, I did get the opportunity to reflect on that little speech I gave back in high school, and I'm not sure that I would be a good choice. I guess I think I'm probably not a good choice for the International Space NASA marketing representative job, because I don't want my kids to grow up and become astronauts. I don't want my I guess my son-in-law, he wanted to be an astronaut, and I guess he and my daughter have a new baby, and they'd like their baby to grow up and be an astronaut, and that honestly, it really doesn't thrill me, because it's a major commitment. It's a lot of sacrifices, and it has a very high potential for risk and hazard and things like that, and it's very difficult. And so just thinking about it has been difficult, and so anyway, I think that's about it. Now it is 9:36 a.m. and it is still Wednesday, April 25th, 2012. And that's the U.S. Eastern Time Zone, and my name is Inta Mitterbach, and this is brought to you by what I'm referring to as this is my fictitious entity, my most recent one, Northern Border Broadcast Productions. I'm on the northern border of the United States, right on Lake Erie, and that's Lake Erie there in the background in the photograph, and that picture was actually taken in Bay Village, which is a couple suburbs west. Few suburbs. There's going in order. It goes from Cleveland to Lakewood to Rocky River to Bay Village, and that was taken in Bay Village. There's a nice beach there called Huntington Beach, and there's also a nice. I thought it was a lighthouse, but I guess it's a water tower. It's the Huntington Water Tower that's there, which would make a great photographic subject, and it's a good place to get sunset pictures, I think. I thought this photo turned out nicely, and my whole life I wanted a good seagull shot, and it looks like I finally got one, though maybe the exposure isn't perfect, but that's not bad for my first fairly decent photo of seagulls and a sunset. So anyway, everyone have a great day, and I'll try to get this posted as quickly as possible. And if you like these audio productions, I'm glad. I enjoy doing them. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.